All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. With several days between now and the start of the upcoming NFL season, which of the four teams in the NFC West has what it takes to win the division? And not only that, how many teams from that division are, locks or even just possibilities, or have the possibilities rather, of making the postseason? I'm going to start with the San Francisco 49ers. And, you think about the Niners in recent years, it's a case of so close, yet so far, as we've seen the 49ers make it to at least the NFC Championship game in 3 out of the last 4 years, but they have no Vince Lombardi trophy to show for their effort. The time is now for the 49ers, as at some point the other shoe is going to drop, being that they've given up so many picks in order to make deals to get some of the players, along with the high salary numbers that some of their star players are currently commanding. And, one of the biggest issues for me with the 49ers not being able to win the championship over the last couple of years is the quarterback position. I said this before and I'll say it again. You go back to the Super Bowl when the 49ers lost to Kansas City. If they had a better quarterback than Jimmy G, they would have won that game because their defense limited that explosive Kansas City offense to 10 points through 3 quarters. That game should not have been as close as it was. You can't give a guy like Patrick Mahomes that many chances. And of course, we saw what happened. The Niners needed Jimmy G to make some plays in that contest when they lost to the Rams in the NFC Championship game. And because of his ineffectiveness, that was a big reason why they lost that game. Then, of course, the rookie, Brock Purdy, they rallied around him. He got him to the NFC Championship game last year. And of course, we don't know what could have been just due to the fact that he was lost with the elbow injury. And of course, that elbow injury is, still hovering over this 49ers team as a new season is set to begin, as whether we don't know whether it's going to be Brock Purdy or Sam Darnold. One thing we do know is that Trey Lance is no longer with the 49ers as he was traded a couple of days ago to the Dallas Cowboys. You look at the Niners, they still have a dominant rushing attack. Was one thing is going to change. No more Mike McGlinchey up front on that offensive line as he's with the Denver Broncos. But on the flip side, this is Christian McCaffrey's first full year with the Niners. And of course, we saw last year, he really began to live up to the hype that he had coming out of college. And I say that due to the fact that Niners head coach Kyle Shanahan put McCaffrey in good positions to go out there and succeed. He lined him up as a receiver, as a running back, used him on reverses. And that's what you do with a player with his versatility. Plus, it also didn't hurt that the Niners have a lot of depth that it makes it so difficult to go out there and concentrate on one of their skill players. So you look at him, you look at Elijah Mitchell and fullback Kyle Juszczyk in this running game. And of course, the Niners are one of the few teams in the NFL that still uses a fullback. And then you have arguably the best tight end in the game right now in George Kittle, along with the talented wide receiver with the likes of Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, and Jawan Jennings. The talent is definitely there on offense. And I'm going to say something right now. Some people might disagree with it. Some people might call me crazy. But at some point this season, I would not be surprised if Sam Darnold were to overtake Brock Purdy and become the San Francisco 49ers starting quarterback. I say that because, let's not forget, it was only a few years ago where Sam Darnold was taken third overall by the New York Jets. Obviously, things did not work out in New York for Sam Darnold for a variety of reasons. I'm not going to put all the blame on the young man. After that, he went to Carolina. He showed some flashes. Was playing good in the second half of the season last year for the Panthers. But I think this is Sam Darnold's best opportunity to succeed in the National Football League because of the talent that is around him, as well as the coaching with Kyle Shanahan. And I think Sam Darnold, to me, I think he came into this process hungry. He knew that this was an opportunity for him to succeed. He's back on the West Coast. He's a California kid, and it would not surprise me to see him overtake Brock Purdy and become the San Francisco 49ers starting quarterback. And if he does, I think that could elevate this team offensively at least. Now, defensively, we know that a lot of changes are, in store for this Niners team this season. D'Amico Ryans is no longer the defensive coordinator with the Niners as he's the head coach of the Houston Texans. But rest assured, the 49ers are going to keep their tradition of solid defensive coordinators. Just before D'Amico Ryans, it was current Jets head coach Robert Saleh. Now you bring in Steve Wilks. He was an interim head coach of the Carolina Panthers last season. A lot of people felt that Wilks, really should have gotten the job in Carolina. You think about the brief period that he had with the Arizona Cardinals, and I think he is definitely going to get the best out of this Niners defense. One thing that could hurt the 49ers is the current holdout of Nick Bosa. And they have to get this done because as good as this pass rush has been for the 49ers in recent years, Nick Bosa is the linchpin because he's that guy that consistently commands a double team. And he's the guy that opens things up for the other pass rushers. And I mean, there's high motors, and then there's Nick Bosa as far as what he's able to do. He sets the tone for what they want to do. You still got Arik Armstead, excuse me, up front, and then you look at Pro Bowl linebacker Fred Werner, and it's once again going to be imperative for this 49ers front seven to create that pressure because to me, I still think they have some question marks in their secondary. Not as strong as they were when they went to the Super Bowl several years ago, but this secondary is really going to rely on the pressure that the front seven can produce. So for Kyle Shanahan and company, I look at it like this. There's a possibility that they get off to a slow start, but I think just like last year, I think the 49ers have the ability to get it going in the second half of the season. They begin things this Sunday on the road in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Week 5, definitely a matchup that people are going to be talking about when they host the Dallas Cowboys. Those two teams have met in the postseason in each of the last 2 years, with San Francisco sending Dallas home. Week number 6, we'll see the 49ers travel to Cleveland, while week number 8, we'll see them host Cincinnati. Week 10, another tough contest for San Francisco as they're on the road in Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. And then you look at the latter part of the schedule. In a 3-week set, the NFC West could possibly be decided. 2 games for the 49ers with the Seattle Seahawks. And of course, these two teams had 3 contests last year. And little by little, the Seahawks closed the gap on the 49ers in those games. Seattle had a chance to win that wild card game last year at Santa Clara before things fell apart for them. So let's see how the Seahawks respond there. Week number 13, San Francisco will be in Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. And of course, these two teams got it on in the NFC Championship game last year. But of course, we don't know what could have been for the 49ers with Brock Purdy being injured so early on in that contest. And speaking of those Seahawks, they were a surprise team last year as they got to the postseason. But with that surprise, will they be able to build off of that for 2023? Head coach Pete Carroll continues to get it done while John Schneider continues to run things in the front office. And we saw the Seahawks organization get the most out of quarterback Geno Smith last season, and they're bringing him back this year. I still think Geno's going to be a transition guy for their next quarterback, but nonetheless, you got to like what you saw out of Geno Smith last year. Kenneth Walker III had a strong rookie season as a running back, and of course, he's looking to avoid that dreaded sophomore slump. But you got to love what Seattle has at wide receiver with the big man, DK Metcalf, the speedy one, Tyler Lockett, and a guy that I think a lot of people are not talking about now, but they will be talking about as the season progresses. And I'm talking about rookie wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jingba coming out of the Ohio State University. Where Seattle drafted him late in the first round to me was a steal. You think about what Ohio State has produced in recent years at the wide receiver position, and if you want to take it back, for the last 20 or 30 years, if not longer, with some of the names that have come out of the Ohio State to have successful NFL careers. Chris Carter, Terry Glenn, Santonio Holmes, just to name a few. And now I think Jackson Smith and Jingba is a tremendous route runner. I think he's going to fit in and have an impact on the Seahawks offense from day one. You also have tight end Noah Fant on the Seahawks offense, as well as Charles Cross, who is a young man that is anchoring a young and improving offensive line for the Seahawks. And one thing that we saw about 10 years ago when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl was that they did a tremendous job as an organization building depth at so many different positions. And we're seeing it again because remember, they got a king's ransom from the Denver Broncos to go out there and trade quarterback Russell Wilson. And in the process, they have gotten themselves a lot of picks and they developed, or they're in the process rather, of developing those picks. And I like the depth that the Seahawks have defensively. You got Jordan Brooks at inside linebacker. You bring back Bobby Wagner to your fold after 1 year with the Rams where it didn't work out. And then you bring in a veteran like Devin Bush Jr. And I think, Devin Bush Jr. being a first round pick going to the Steelers, it didn't work out there. But I think he has an opportunity to live up to that first round billing with Seattle. Getting a healthy Jamal Adams back at some point this season is definitely going to bolster the Seahawks team with what they like to do. I like their chances. Like I said, I talked about the two games in the middle of the season and a 3-week stretch with San Francisco. Sandwiched in between those two contests is a trip to take on the Dallas Cowboys. They host the Philadelphia Eagles late, and then earlier on in the season, week number 6 at Cincinnati and week number 9 at Baltimore. And I think Seattle could once again be a playoff team here in 2023. Now, you look at the Los Angeles Rams, and of course, the question is going to be, is this going to be a quick or long-term rebuild for them? And I say that because we saw them win the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but then the bottom fell out. They went 5-12 last year. Age and injuries, as well as them lacking the depth. Because remember, they mortgaged their future to win that championship, and you can't knock them because they did do it. But now the bill has come due for them. So, are they going to have a healthy Matthew Stafford? And is Matthew Stafford going to be with the Rams long term? That's another question. Even going back to their championship year, the Rams had questions on the offensive line, and those questions have only gotten bigger and louder. How healthy is Cooper Cup going to be at wide receiver, and is he going to be in Los Angeles long term? We got to wait and see. The Rams definitely have to find a way to improve their running game, which is another way to protect Stafford, as they were 27th in the NFL last season in the category. Now, 2 years ago when the Rams won it all, they had themselves a championship defense, a Hall of Fame type defense. Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, and of course, the great Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is still there, but this defense is a shell of itself. And you see how Aaron Donald has continued to dominate throughout his Hall of Fame career. You just have to ask yourself, how much longer is he going to be able to play at this Hall of Fame level? You look at Rams head coach Sean McVay, it looked like he wasn't coming back. Ultimately, he decided to. And I think this is obviously a rebuild year for the Rams. But depending on how good or bad it goes for LA, it could be a quick rebuild. And I say that because there are a slew of quarterbacks that are coming out of college for the 2024 NFL draft. You're going to see at least 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. And I think as long as the Rams are in that top 10 mix, they're definitely going to get one of the better ones. Speaking of another team that could be in the mix for a quarterback next spring, the Arizona Cardinals, as they're starting over. After 4 years with Cliff Kingsbury as their head coach, the Cardinals are now going with former Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. We know that Kyler Murray rather is not going to be healthy to begin this season. The Cardinals brought in veteran quarterback Colt McCoy, and I'll tell you like this: I'm not sure if Kyler Murray is no longer in the long-term plans of this team. I say that because you have a head coach in Jonathan Gannon who didn't draft him. We've seen so much upheaval in the Arizona Cardinals front office, and if you're starting over like that, you're going to sit back and say, well, Let me go get a quarterback who's a little bit cheaper, who, fits into my system and I can build around. I'm not sure if Kyler Murray is that guy. And there could be a possibility that a bad year for the Cardinals could see them starting over at quarterback, which would obviously result in them trading Kyler Murray. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it is a possibility. You still got talent there in Arizona. You got Zach Ertz at tight end. Hollywood Brown is going to be the top wide receiver for them. They just no longer Duke Hopkins being there as he's with the Tennessee Titans. We saw the Cardinals recently trade safety Isaiah Simmons to the Giants. Buda Baker flirted with holding out as he's looking to get traded, but he's still there. How much longer? We got to wait and see. But I look at this Cardinals team; they are definitely going to be fighting an uphill battle, and it would not surprise me at season's end to see the Cardinals finish with a top 10 pick for next year's draft, as well as possibly a top 5 pick. But we got to wait and see. But I think that the Cardinals and the Rams really are going to have their work cut out for them to make the postseason. I think that the 49ers and Seahawks are both playoff teams. I love the depth of Seattle, and I think that is going to definitely work in their favor as this year progresses. Pete Carroll once again has the excitement in the Pacific Northwest around this team. He believes in Geno Smith, and because of that, and because of the talent that is around Geno Smith on both sides of the ball, I think Geno has the opportunity to have another solid season for the Seahawks. For the Niners, like I said, I think they get off to a slow start, but they're a second half team, and I think they pick it up. Eventually, the contract situation is going to get worked out between Nick Bosa and the 49ers front office. Will it be sooner rather than later? We got to wait and see. The talent is there, the time is now, and I'm going to give a slight edge to the 49ers to win this division. But nonetheless, like I said, when it's all said and done, I still believe that the Seahawks have what it takes to be a postseason team, and they could possibly do some damage this year. We got to wait and see. But I think once again, we are in store for a fun battle in the NFC West. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you are on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.